Am I in the?
Yes.
Yes. So we're gonna be talking about wealth building, right? Keys to creation of wealth, right? Mindset, all these kind of different things. And I'll just start off by introducing myself for those that don't know. Artur, Tyszka, it's my mom, Donna, Tyszka. We have a combined years of experience, like 30 years now.
I mean, I started real estate, got licensed in 2004 in December. So it's gonna be exactly 20 years in this December.
Nice. Yeah, so that's a long time. I'm approaching 10 years, I think. I feel like I've been saying that for a few years though. I think it's 10 years, I don't know, 8, 9, somewhere around there. But you know, when we're going to be talking about wealth, I really wanted to kind of keep this as an open discussion with everybody here, to kind of gauge and see where everyone's mind is at as far as, you know, building wealth. Because I have a good idea of what, you know, you can do to build wealth and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we can go into more detail with that, but I'd like to hear from everybody. If we can go to the, I guess we can just highlight this really quick before we go to the next slide. The slide isn't really important. So let's talk. You know, if someone could tell me or anybody would like to, you know, raise their hand or just speak out, what areas or what would you expect from this class? Like, what would you like to learn from this class as far as building wealth? Does anybody have an idea of what they would? Yeah, go ahead.
Where's a good place to start?
Where's a good place to start? Like, what do you mean by that?
And the fact that you're a realtor and say you want to build wealth with real estate. Where would you start?
Where would you start? Just like kind of like building your basis and foundation.
Can I answer that question?
Well, no, yeah, I want to hear from everybody first. Does anybody else have like, you know, areas that they would like?
Yeah, like for example, I would like to do investments on houses. So I would like to know like what strategy should I use or where can I start looking for those houses, like for those deals that I can use.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, that's good. That's good. And something else we're really going to focus on. I mean, those are good things to talk about, of course, but we want to talk about mindset around wealth. And you know, I think Nalini had me speak with who is that Tim guy?
Tim Bowden, just so you guys know, Arthur pulled some of the material from one of our top coaches in KW. His name is Tim Bowden. He's the executive mass coach for a lot of top mega producers. And he pulled some of the slides from one of their real estate training teams who does a lot of investments. So as much as Arthur and Donna have amazing experience in themselves, they're actually pulling more information for you guys. So you don't just get them, of course, which you guys are amazing of your own right, but also Arthur really prepared for.
He was really interesting to listen to. And I think something that I thought was really interesting for me, because I know in our family, at least, growing up and talking about, you know, finances and things of that nature was so secondary to us. So he you know wanted me to ask you guys, how is it talked about growing up for you guys? Like, was wealth the normal conversation at the dinner table? I think something that he mentioned. You know, was that something that was talked about? Like, you know, has anyone here when they were growing up talking with their families, was that like a conversation? So yeah, for you it was. Most people are saying no. So I think that's really interesting because, you know, I want to say you're in the right place now. We can all talk about it freely and openly and kind of gauge how everybody understands wealth, because I feel like it's it could be this huge kind of, you know, cloud over your head. Understanding what you need to do to build that, because for us it's like second nature.
I mean, we do talk about money and wealth all the time, like point that it gets annoying, but I like the subject because it gives us independence. You know, you can manage your own life and manage your own time. And if you just think outside the box a little bit and get to know the right people, just do it.
Go to the next slide.
It's really not that big of a
Bir dakika,
deal.
7.000 neresi? Ha, hepsi.
It's not.
Yeah, let me know if anyone types in this Zoom
Okay,
or
I just
anything.
have one from Sabah. She said, #1 funding, and then should you look for single family or multi? So I'll just write it up here.
So she had a question about funding. So we have a couple questions, where to start, where to look, funding. And we're gonna cover all these today. Definitely want to talk about your guys' questions more than anything, because, we can sit here and talk about a variety of things, but, I wanted to benefit you guys, as far as what we're gonna gain from this class. And what's better to start single or multifamily?
Yep.
Okay.
And I wrote it up for you.
So I guess segueing from, talking about it growing up and all that kind of stuff, finances, I will talk briefly about our story. I don't want it to mostly be about us. I want it to be more about you guys. But as far as our story goes, you want to start and I'll kind of chime into the story.
I mean, I always wanted, my husband had his own business. Obviously, we came to this country with absolutely nothing. And I always wanted to do more. I always knew I cannot get that freedom just from working for somebody else. Even running a business, like my husband had his own business.
What business was he?
but I-
Don't mind me asking.
Hmm?
What business was he running?
My husband was in a roofing business, a commercial roofing business, which was extremely difficult.
Tough
Work.
job. I went on the roof with him a couple of times, and that's what really made me want to get into real estate. I'm like, this is definitely not for me.
He
It's
was
tough.
in commercial roofing, which is hard, but you always wanna have like, that saying that you don't put all the eggs in one basket, you always wanna have something else in your life. So I was always fascinated about real estate, always wanted to invest. So when I was sitting, actually when Artur was little, there I was sitting at home with him, I was looking at houses all the time. I always wanted to go see homes. So then we wanted to buy old houses, fix them, and then resell it. And that was giving me like a great pleasure of fixing those homes, like a fulfillment. I don't know, something that I like to do. So we started with that, and I was not even thinking about buying investments and two-family houses at that time, but I knew I wanted to do something else except his business. So that was kind of the beginning, but now I would probably do everything differently. The way we started with Artur, I mean, if you the number one priority, what everybody have to do is you gotta work on your credit. You have to pay your bills on time. That's number one. You're not gonna get anywhere if you're gonna not pay your bills on time.
And you want to just elaborate why credit's really important,
Because if
as
you're
far
gonna
as,
have a
because
good
someone
credit-
brought up about the funding.
Because if you're gonna have a good credit, I know private money lenders exist, but everybody will wanna work with you and they will offer you loans if you're gonna be paying your bills on time. I keep telling both of my boys, like, that's a priority. You don't miss a payment. You don't wanna have missing payments on your credit report. That's number one priority. And there's a lot of investors that wanna get into the market and they wanna loan you money. There's a lot of opportunities. People will call you right now. People call us like, oh, how much money you want? Like.
It's easy to get carried away with that stuff, but I think the main point of that is that in order to build wealth through real estate, you want to be able to utilize debt. That's very, very important. So making sure your credit being good is a very important factor when trying to build wealth. And kind of not to stray too far off the topic, just talking a little bit, just to kind of sum up our story. I was having a conversation with Melanie even before the class, and I was telling her about how, the first flip I technically was a part of was Postbrook. How that was kind of my introduction to everything. I didn't really know much about what was going on.
Just use your name.
My name was just used. So, my mom and dad were doing a couple flips here and there, was this after 2008 or before 2008? Do you remember like your Wanacue flip? The one you did a while back?
Oh, that was like after, Postbrook was after.
After 2008.
Yes, that was after 2008, yes.
Yeah, because I know my parents were doing flips a little bit in the past. You kind of stopped doing them, once we moved to West Milford, because then it was more so about building the real estate business. And I think that's the key thing with wealth is like, you can't expect anything immediate you always have to think bigger picture, the long game, you know, especially in this business, you know, whether you're building wealth through, you know, your real estate business, you're building it through your investments, or, you know, whatever facet you're going to be focusing on, is always want to think long term. You know, at least for me, that's always, you know, my idea of it. So whenever, you know, like just to kind of sum up our story, you know, you kind of led me into the way of believing building wealth through real estate is the best thing possible. You know, I own a couple multifamilies now. And I always have the feeling of I can't overpay for a two-family at this point in my time in my life. I mean, I'm in my 20s, you know, approaching 30s. So, you know, the way I think about it is, if you're buying for the long term, multifamilies, we really think about it in North Jersey aspects. I mean, I'm going to focus on our market comparative to the rest of the country, because the rest of the country doesn't really follow where our market behaves. When you buy a multifamily in our area, and you plan on holding it for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, however many years.
Yes.
Because, like, you know, my first multifamily, you know, it was when COVID first hit. You know, everyone was scrambling, you know, making sure they had enough money to live for the next 6 months. We didn't know how long we were going to be barricaded in or whatever. So my mom was like, well, I have a great idea. Let's buy your first two-family now, when everyone was panicking. So it ended up being a great investment. And maybe at the time it seemed like overpaying. Everything always seems expensive the day of. But it turned out to be one of the best investments, you know, that I got to utilize now to do more flips with. And
that was actually my listing, and you know, we had multiple bids, 6 offers. The house was under contract for way over asking, and then the COVID hit, and everybody walked. I had a vacant house, was a two-family house, and Artur wanted to go and look for a rental. And I was coming back home one day, I was like, I'm thinking to myself, why don't we buy it? I got home, talked to my husband, and that's how he ended up with his first house, which we bought it during COVID.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the key thing is, like, you know, there's like a saying, you buy when there's blood in the streets. I think that applies to stocks. I think you could apply the same thing with real estate. You know, that's kind of the mentality we've always had. You know, when you bought your two-family in Butler, even, you know, I think it was like a hoarder house.
All the investments that I bought, I actually always try to sell it to my clients. So there was the house in Butler, and we were in construction. My husband was in construction, but I probably showed it to 4 different buyers, and I tried to tell them that it's a good buy. And people walked in, walked out. I took my husband, that, as I said, was in the construction business for over 25 years in the business, opened the door, and he was like, hell no.
It was a nasty house, hoarder house, and it ended up being one of your best investments, because how long have you owned that now? It's been like, I don't know, 5-7 years.
But we bought it for like 220. It was a duplex, side by side. So we did put a lot of work, but you know, the bottom line is, like, anything that you're gonna buy, it's gonna be like your saving account, kind of. Because you're gonna put a tenant in there, the tenant's gonna pay your mortgage, and the house will appreciate. So the house will appreciate. On average, you have between 4 and 4.5% per year on the value. On top of it, hopefully you're gonna do some improvements. On top of it, every month your principal gets smaller and smaller, because all the rental money that you're gonna be getting from your tenants.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
So if you're like going to buy a house, do you stay away from like a certain year and down, because like, does it depreciate at a certain point going off of years?
No, it depends. It depends where. Like right now, I don't know if I would buy a house in Bergen County anywhere. As far as a two-family, I think those prices are very high. I would look for investment somewhere else where I believe the market still has opportunity to grow as far as the price. Last year, we recently, you know, Steve Emery was buying a house in Phillipsburg, which is all the way far, but that's
right outside of Eastern PA, if you don't know where Phillipsburg is.
That market has so much potentials to grow. So I always look for areas where the prices are still not there. Like right now, if we have a buyer right now and cannot afford like Phantom Lakes or Wayne, we introduce them to Jefferson. I believe Jefferson has a lot of potentials to grow. It's Morris County, schools are great.
They're building around that lake
They're
community too.
building around the lake community. So I would always look for investments where I believe the market still have potentials to grow. That's how I was always buying. We bought a house in Netcong where honestly, most people around us didn't even know that Netcong exists. We bought that great house 3 years ago or 3 years ago. That
It wasn't
house-
long ago though.
That house is probably worth double right now because all of a sudden Roxbury is Netcong is next door to Roxbury and Netcong has a train. Roxbury is building a lot. Now everybody knows.
I think,
where
what else is that
Roxbury
other town? Oh, Netcon got approved for that huge, renovation for the downtown I shared with
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I think that's to your point, I don't think it's so much the age of the home. I think it's more so the area
The
where you wanna
area.
focus on, because, she said I wouldn't touch anything in Bergen County, I mean, obviously, if we had the right opportunity came. You would buy it in Bergen County, but Bergen County and Hudson County are so oversaturated right now. Unless you're buying with cash or like a huge down payment or you're gonna rebuild something, it doesn't really make sense right now for like, your big beginner or small time investors.
Careful what you buy because like you're gonna close and then you need to have a vision what you're gonna do with this house, what kind of tenant is gonna rent from you, how much money you're gonna get, what is the value if you're gonna buy a house to flip, what is the value after. You need to know your numbers. You need to have a plan B. If you're gonna buy a flip, what's gonna happen if you're not gonna sell that house for that number? You don't wanna buy in an area where you're gonna pay a high number unless you buy a two-family that is like beautiful and you're gonna get to keep that house for investment basically. But if you're gonna buy 1-2 family house that is big in the town, and then you wanna pull some equity of that house to buy another project or another investment, you're not gonna be able to count that house because you need comparable houses that sold in that town
Right, makes
within the
sense.
last year. So you need to be very, very careful where you're gonna park your money. Like study those markets. Go to the supermarket, see what kind of people are buying. Look
Or the
at
local
the-
restaurants,
Local
whatever,
restaurants.
that's how you learn who's in that area, I always do that, I mean, when I was, I had an investor that. He wanted to buy in Phillipsburg and I like asked him honestly, like, cause the guy really trusts me, we worked together for a little while, I said, Phillipsburg, I said, why do you wanna go there? He said, oh no, everyone's going over there, like a client introduced me, Thomas, he introduced me into this market area. And I couldn't believe how much the prices were, like they were cheaper and the rents were so great. And I started learning more about that area, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit further out there, but the quality of tenants you can get and how many people are renting in that area really make up for the investment side of it. I think it's one of those hotspots that are really growing. Like you mentioned, Steve Emery, he had an accepted offer over there. I think on that duplex that he was gonna buy, there was 50 offers on it, I think. 50 offers. So like people know about it already. It's not like such a secret anymore. But I think it's still one of those areas that's growing.
It's gonna be all about the listing price. I mean, there was a duplex, side by side duplex, not much work was needed. House was older.
It was built in like the 30s, I think, too.
Yes, but extremely well maintained and was priced on like with a driveway and 50 by 100 lot, beautiful street, and was priced at 269. So you can imagine, take that house and put it in Bergen County, you're gonna be around 800. So like you have to be very careful where you're gonna buy, what kind of house, because you need to have a plan after. What you're gonna do with this house? Is this house gonna bring you money? You need to try to buy a house in an area where you believe that people will move and will. It's like, what's gonna happen, you think, with those buyers that looking in Wayne and they cannot afford or buy anything for 600. They're gonna go either more west or they're gonna go more south, north. Like we did couple flips in Vernon recently. Do you know where the buyers came from? One buyer came from Morristown that bought our house in Vernon. Another one
From Butler.
from Ottawa or Butler.
Butler.
Yeah, because this area is just so pricey, so people go somewhere else. And a lot of people work from homes anyway, or they look for jobs over there. Like Vernon right now, they building that casino over there.
It's not the casino, it's just a Hard Rock.
Yeah, the Hard Rock.
I'm sure they're
So
gonna put a casino there
there is
eventually.
gonna, they wanna make the town more like a recreational town that a lot of people will move, which is gonna create more jobs too. So those people will pay for houses just to move there. So that's how I was always thinking about investing. You look for those houses, that areas where the market you believe will still appreciate. Because if the market will appreciate, you can pull out equity from that house and you're gonna have money for another down payment to buy another investment.
Right, yeah, go ahead, Nelson.
I don't know if you guys discussed, how much did you guys acquire the property in Vernon for?
We acquired two. Both of them ironically were on the same street. It just worked out that way, I guess. One of them, the ranch, what did we buy it for, like
170.
170? We bought it for 170 and we sold it for what, 330? 330, somewhere around there? I don't even remember.
What did you put into it?
You probably know the numbers better than
We
I do.
didn't do much. There was around Artur's wedding, so the house was kind of like with the septic, like all these houses, everybody's afraid of the septic.
Yeah, a lot of investors don't want to get involved with septics, which I think for us is a plus because, you know, if the crowd isn't doing it, figure out a way to do stuff the crowd isn't doing, you know what I mean? And you know, thankfully we got in contact with a great septic contact, who was able to, you know, do it for a great price. He's pretty reliable, I would say, and we've never had a hiccup with him. So, you know, we did that one and we also did another one down the street, which we bought for 220. There was a multiple offer situation. It's so funny how that one worked out because we came into that one not even wanting the house. But once there was multiple offers, I'm like, well, maybe there's something there. Maybe we can make it work. So, you know, we didn't have to go that much higher. You know, but we ended up getting it, and I don't know, we put like 100 plus into
I mean,
that one.
that was a lot of work. That house needed a lot of work, but there was nothing to buy.
So we kind of just wanted a project on our hands, and then we made the numbers work, and we ended up selling that one for 412-ish range, 412. 412, and that was the people from Butler who came up.
And if you that with that, we've made between 60 and 120. Obviously, the more square footage it is, so the more money you're gonna get, but then the more money you have to put into that property.
Yeah, I think for a flip, you always want to be careful with your margins. Like if you're estimating to make around 50, it's probably a little bit risky because expenses can come up, like hidden costs can come up. I would always try to plan for at least like 60 to 80 minimum, right? On the profits.
My always idea was like even $40,000, $30,000, it's still worth it, you know, because
That's a lot of
how hard my younger son graduated from college with good grades and he's making $45,000 from City Hall. So, you know, and he has to go to work 5 days.
Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you know, so it's a different mentality, but you know, enough about us and stuff. Let's go on to the next slide, Melanie.
Michael, you wish.
With the market conditions being what they are right now.
Right.
Like the idea that, you know, investing in a flip, you're very confident that you're
Right.
gonna sell it quick, right? Cause you put something back on the market, it's gonna be renovated, new septic, like you said, it's gonna be appealing.
It's all about the listing price. So the last one that we just sold in Vernon, we listed high because we wanted to play the market. And we listed at 425, the one that for
The buy level we had.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me
Yeah,
about, yeah.
so and I had no calls. No.
That was a little alarming.
Yeah.
We listed for 425 and then, I don't know, we talked to Eric, I think, who had
What you doing?
Eric Melanikoff, for those who don't know, also invests as well, and he kind of like, you know, told us, he's like,
No.
he said, list it lower, and he gave us the advice of 385. Once we dropped it to 385, yeah, it looked a little funny, but we ended up getting close to where we wanted to be through multiple bids because everyone came. It was like a huge frenzy, multiple offers. Everyone's begging now for the house, you know.
So
So
you play a little bit with the numbers. You
My
know?
question is like, in a grand, like, maybe a larger perspective, if the market changes, are you gonna feel as confident in
With that
doing?
flips all
Yeah.
around, and and you basically buy in the areas where you think the market will still appreciate. God forbid, have a plan B
Mhm.
and put a tenant there.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
if I,
because here's the thing, like, we buy a lot of our properties with hard money. We
Yeah.
don't use our own money, so, like my mom's saying, plan B, like, if you can't sell it, stick a tenant in it, wait for the market to kind of, I guess correct itself or whatever the case is, and then sell it, because you did that with the property on Otterhole.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we bought it relatively cheap, put a tenant in there, made a couple bucks, and then ended up putting it on the market.
Yeah, we kept it for 2 years because my accountant was telling me that we're gonna go to jail if we're gonna make too much money. So it's like you have to keep those houses for at least a year. I said I can't, like I need my money back. But that's what we did with this house. We put a tenant there and we hold it for 2 years.
Yeah,
So in that case, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, go ahead, please.
In that case, with the tenant, do you refi out of the hard money loan? Or are you continue?
Yeah, what we did with this house?
I don't know if I think you bought that with a regular mortgage
We
back then.
bought that with a regular mortgage,
I
yeah.
think Mark did the loan.
Yeah, Otterhole we bought, yeah, that was regular mortgage.
We use NJ lenders for a lot of things. That's always been our go-to, Mark, Nico. So shout out them. They're a great resource if you wanna, get into the investing side of things. They're talking through everything. And he has hard money avenues as well. So that's what we do. So I highly recommend speaking with them if you want to talk about like, your numbers and everything. I really, those guys helped us a lot.
I mean,
And then you
the
guys have to just bring 10% down for the
For hard money?
Yes.
Yeah, just 10%.
Yes,
Yeah.
10%, yes. That's what usually is involved. But they always, like most hard money lenders, they wanna have they wanna see some type of history with investing, even if you buy something for yourself. Now you're gonna be considered like that you know something about houses already. But someone asked a question, what would you buy, like a 2-family or a single-family house? It all depends what kind of opportunity is gonna be in front of you, like what kind of house it's right now, it's hard to find a good buy right now. It's hard. And I had to move to West Milford because that's why I end up as a realtor, because like there's a lot of agents that do not understand the market. It's like this is sales, so it's a supply and demand basically, and you have to really understand what people would buy, what people want,
Where are people going,
where people
where are the
going.
jobs gonna be
This
going?
this
Where's the redevelopment gonna be happening? Like, like I was sharing with my mom, like there's a huge builder that is gonna be redeveloping Netcon's downtown. The whole thing's gonna be redeveloped. You know what that's gonna do for that area? It's gonna pop, So
What's your resource for information?
So I mean, it's a lot on social media. I just follow everybody I possibly can because when news like that breaks, I saw from another realtor, who works with a lot of builders. If anybody knows Taylor Lusick, he's a really huge development guy. So I try to follow him. I try to follow as many people as you possibly can. So I get a lot of my info from social media.
Follow
everybody you can. Anybody who works with builders and stuff like that, because you're gonna be scrolling and if it's getting a lot of clicks, it'll pop up for you. Like that, I saw it on his story and I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because he reshared a builder's post. So try and find the builders, try and find like any of these people, like architects, whatever. Those guys usually know what's gonna be happening, where the money's gonna be going, because they're the ones investing into that. I mean, online, obviously you want to look that stuff up, but, a lot of information too, is just from our own experiences. Just the fact that, we had those 2 flips in Vernon and we saw where both buyers came from. One came from Morristown, one came from Butler. I mean, we know from personal experience, Vernon is becoming an outlet for people who get priced out of those expensive areas.
You just watch the market.
It's a trickle effect, I feel like right now, because and we really haven't stopped. I mean, there was like this work from home fad that came about, and everyone from New York came to Bergen County, Hudson County-ish area. I mean, they have been for a little while, but now it's really exploded. They come into Essex County, so those areas really blow up. So where do those homegrown buyers go? Morris, Passaic County. They get priced out. Where do they go? Sussex, Warren. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just natural for it to kind of seed like that.
I have a lot of past clients that they own investment properties, most of them in Bergen County, but when we know those 2-family houses right now are pricey, so I have people that call me, it's like, I don't wanna do work, like, sell me something. You know what I do with them? I drive them to Hardyston and Sussex County, and they buy in townhouses. You know that Hardyston, those townhouses right now appreciate by $10,000 by month. Pretty much. Per month. I close on something for 330 in March. Right now, a unit sold yesterday for 375 in the same development, same unit.
And the rents over there are great.
And-
You know, if you buy a townhouse, especially I think, you know, in those like up and coming areas, the rents usually are higher than, you know, like where the price appreciation is compared to the rent appreciation, especially in those areas, vastly different. Like you sold something in Franklin on Liberty.
Yeah.
How much did you sell that for to a client? It's like 270 or something like that. I don't know. You sold something in the twos, high twos. And we ended up renting it out for like 2,700.
Yeah.
2,700.
Right.
Solid, you know, ratios there.
On the Hardyston, you can.
And they had to do nothing. They just bought it and stuck someone in there. So, you know, it's a.
It depends what your goal and what you wanna do with this, as I said, and how much work you wanna. The townhouses are, I wanna say, for people that they wanna enjoy life, but they have some cash and they wanna put it somewhere and they're not really familiar with the stock market or they don't trust the stock market. They trust the real estate. But I had 4 applications the first week, and he wanted to list it high for rent. I told him like 25.50 for 2 bedrooms in Hardyston. He got 26.50, and we had 4 applications over the same weekend after
They're
listing.
getting worse for rentals up there. I mean, it's crazy. You know what I mean? So.
So this is townhouses. This is like my last resort. I would not buy it probably as an investor. As an investor, 2-family houses are the best way to start. There's no questions about it.
Rental.
Yes,
Yeah.
rental. That's the best way to start. But because the prices are high, I mean, even if you're gonna buy a single-family house in a town that will appreciate and that house needs work, where you can put some money and pull out equity, I mean, that's what I would buy. We buy
Well,
anything.
because you bought a single family in Franklin, you know,
There was
like.
nothing to buy, like.
There was
no
nothing to buy,
numbers.
but an opportunity presented itself,
Yeah.
and you got it for what, 160, 170? 160.
165.
She buys the single family in Franklin, with hard
There was
money,
no foundation.
no foundation, okay. So we bought it with hard money, right?
No, but that was Mark.
So Mark mortgaged it, okay?
The appraisal didn't see that there was no foundation, but yes.
So she buys the single family, fixes it up, puts a tenant in there.
Did the appraiser even come to the house?
There was a
Ask
there was a crawl space, but what the prior owner did, because he was very tall, so he was just digging, but there was no foundation around.
Okay,
So he was making the basement like
yeah.
deeper. Yeah.
It was an interesting situation to say the least, but go ahead.
What about building from the ground up as an investment? Have you guys done any of that? Or-
We haven't done it. We haven't done it.
I think that's if you're cash heavy,
Mhm.
or you can find the right avenues for lending. There are lenders out there that'll loan on the build and.
Construction.
Yeah, I think it's just more like a cash heavy. I think for more beginners, you outsource it, those growing markets. And start with like multifamilies, I think, preferably. I think that's a good way to start, or even single families,
That's something, as I said, like, people talk about like the market like the market is gonna crash, the market is gonna change. You know that everywhere else, the market is shifting except our area. It's becoming the buyer's market everywhere outside, like our northern part of the states. So, as I said, what about the plan B? Like, what if we're gonna build that big house?
Yeah.
I got burned because we were Wayne residents, and because I had the realtors that I had, we bought a biggest house. We bought a house in West Milford, and we built on that house. We knocked it off and we built, and then the market crashed. So I had an option to foreclose on the house or move to West Milford. That's how he ended up, growing up in West Milford, because we moved and then we rented our small house in Wayne.
Now you're back in Wayne, so it worked out.
Yeah, but it took me 17 years to come back, and I don't want to do it again. I'm not in the position to take that risk, you know. I don't want it, you know. Yeah, because he's in a two-family. If we build a big house, he can rent his two-family and move to the big house. You know, you need to have a plan B. What you're gonna do with this?
Yeah.
That's now I would be very careful, unless maybe you want to build in Hardestone. You know, it's like
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, if Vernon or something, a lot of vacant lots, if you could create
Yes.
inventory there.
Yeah.
Not a huge house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath,
Yes.
1,500,
That's
1,600 square
all.
feet, you,
What's gonna be your finished project at what price?
yeah.
Because if that price, it's still gonna be attractive to, let's say, to a buyer from Wayne, they would go there and
Yeah,
pay
and
for
they
the
have,
construction,
they have,
and they
you know.
have, they will pay. And also finishes are very important. Like I had, we recently built a relationship with a very nice young guy who is a builder. And he asked me about one house in Jefferson, and I said, Mike, you're not gonna make money on this house. Like, there's no way. He went up to a listing agent, bought that house, bought a house. And the way he finished that house, after he sold, like I said, he gave it back to the other agent. I didn't get the business. I told him that he's not gonna make money. And I called him, like, how much did you get? And he said, I'm not gonna say because it's crazy. He bought it for 220, the one in Jefferson.
Yeah, I remember you showing me
Really
that one.
large one.
Yeah.
He sold it for like 440. I don't know who would pay that kind of money. And people, I keep telling, like, we're very strong buyers heavy, so we understand the buyers, but you know, people buy houses, majority of the people buy houses with their eyes, not with
For the finishes, I
For the
mean, you know, when you have nice finishes on a flip or a new build, I think you're way more subject to break comps. Like there was a new duplex in Lodi from a builder that I saw just closed not too long ago, and they broke comps. It was the highest two-family in Lodi that sold. It closed for 119, two-family in Lodi.
or
It-
house.
Oh, yeah, well, they knocked it down, I think.
Oh, they knocked it down.
So they bought this two-family in Lodi for I think like $650 or something. They paid like a lot of money. And they rebuilt the whole thing to make it a side-by-side duplex. And I mean, to me, it just sounds insane that you're fetching these kind of prices for a two-family in Bergen County now. 119. I mean, think about that. If someone was willing to pay that much money, and there was no comps for this, zero. But because it finishes, someone was willing to pay for that. So if that's happening there, it's gonna come to us. And then, you know, like I was saying, it's gonna go up there too. So I think, you know, to my mom's point, the finishes are really, really important when you're doing a flip or whatever. You don't want to cheap on that because many times you're gonna break the comps. You know, you're gonna go over those comps. It's just you have to understand what kind of people are coming there. And I think New Jersey MLS is a great. If you don't know from your personal experience, you can always look this up on New Jersey MLS too. New Jersey MLS tells you where the buyers are coming from. It says like buyer came from, you know, Morristown, or buyer came from wherever, like that data. I don't know if New Jersey MLS is much in Sussex County, but you can probably look at Passaic and Morris counties for that. But it has that valuable information, which is great. But yeah.
I mean, you see the prices where but let's say the buyer is coming from Morristown. You look at the inventory in Morristown for how much those prices are selling. So if you're gonna create a product in a different area where like the average selling price is for Morristown, you're always gonna make money. So you know, that was always my thinking, you know, have a plan B and really understand the need for that house would buy, because people will need to live somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to the whole
And
trickle
with the rental
effect.
prices are so high right now, you know, people will rather buy than rent, you know. And what we see is happening right now, I think that the trend for the multi-generational houses is coming back because prices where they are. Who told us about the Franklin Lake house that was sold and 6 family bought that house for like over 3 million. There was like 6 families bought the house, like the house that you sold in Wayne recently. It was kind of like three families that bought that house together.
Oh, the
The
remix, yeah.
the grandparents, parents, and the young couple.
Yeah, I mean that's happening a lot lately. Those multi-generational living because prices have gone up so much that people are pooling their money together. I mean, in this particular situation that my mom's talking about, this house in Wayne we sold, you have, you know, guy and girl who just got married, the son and his wife, parents, and then grandparents all pooled their money together to get into that house. So you know, I feel like that's why like our prices are still being pushed because people are just thinking outside the box how to, you know, make it work. But we got really sidetracked, I guess, with the slides and everything. Which, you know, I hope you guys appreciated that conversation. Does anybody have any questions so far or that, you know, anything coming to mind?
There was one, I don't know if you want to say this for later. Sabah asked, do you buy the house under an LLC or your name, and what do you recommend?
I mean,
Every house is different. If you're gonna buy a house with a hard money, you have to go with the others.
yeah, I think LLC, you know,
And you
there's,
guys have your own LLC?
yeah, we do. I think LLC, you know, like they talk about on social media, like it's like the end all be all, like you have to buy LLC to protect yourself, but I don't think that's necessarily like, you know.
If you're taking a mortgage, you cannot do LLC. You have to go in your personal name.
Yeah, if you're gonna take a mortgage, which you can get a lower rate on, you can buy personally. But if you're gonna buy the LLC and you use hard money, the rate's gonna be higher, but the access to money is gonna be easier.
I keep hearing you guys say hard money. What is hard money?
Hard money is basically someone's cash that they're lending to you, not through a traditional method. Okay, so when you apply for a mortgage, you gotta, you know, submit all the
Fannie Mae.
it has to be approved by the, you know, the loan programs and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot more paperwork involved. Hard money, is
Private investment groups.
like let's say my mom had, you know, 500 grand to loan to somebody. That would be considered hard money. She's loaning me, like, you know, she has her own set of criteria. And she's willing to loan that 500,000 based on her criteria, not based on like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guideline,
Guidelines.
as opposed to a regular mortgage.
Okay.
So that's the difference. But usually in the hard money, because it's their own criteria and then like their own stipulations, the rates are gonna be
And you
higher.
can still find that through like NJ lenders?
Yeah, I mean, you could find it from wherever, you know, we got ours through Mark, but like, you know, there's specific lending companies out there that specialize in hard money, there's that guy we met from Renovo Loans, Renovo, so there's some companies out there that just do hard money. So, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Just give people a perspective, right? So if the 30-year fixed rate mortgage today was 7%. Based on a hard money loan, what would be the differential you think I know there's compensating factors that go into that. But on average, let's say the 30-year fixed conventional mortgage was 7%, but you're buying an investment property, you're using hard money. What do you think that interest rate looks like?
Right now, the hard money rate is 12%.
Is how much?
12, and you're paying 2 points. That's
paying interest only, correct?
Well, it depends how you want to do it. I mean, hard money loans are basically a short term. So you don't want to use hard money, right? Hard money loan, that's why I'm saying credit, pay your bills on time. That's how you start. Because hard money, you need on the properties that are not mortgageable. That, you know, sometimes that appraisal will want to get inside and we'll see that the foundation is not there. And so you need hard money loans on the properties that are not mortgageable. Like there is a mold, the roof is missing, like big.
Big stuff that an appraiser probably wouldn't approve
Yes.
of, but Tim, you have something you want to say?
No.
Oh, here's your hand, sorry.
And hard money is basically for 6 months. That's how long they investors are really looking to loan you the money. And you need to have a plan to get out from it.
I know what I want to say. Arthur, is it true with some of the investors that I spoke to that the first time you do want to do, right, because you don't have a proven track record, your costs may be a little more than if you start having a proven track record using that same.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct. It's like, you know, if you have a client that gives you repeat business. You're gonna wanna eventually do them favors on your end because you wanna keep getting their repeat business. It's the same thing with hard money lenders. Like at first, yeah, it may not seem like the greatest margins, but like it goes back to that mindset of building wealth, like thinking long term, right? You don't want to think just immediate, like, is this deal gonna work out for me like right here and now? And something I wanted to also just backtrack a little bit on is like when I bought my second two family, and keep in mind, I moved into all my two families, so the numbers, worked differently for me. When I bought my second two family, I paid, and this goes back to my point where I said I don't feel like I can overpay for a two family because I know what I'm buying and I know the areas, where the area is going. When I bought my second two family in Pompton Lakes, we saw it the first day. We were really antsy to get into another two family because we were in a one bedroom in the Wanacue place, onto expanding into a 3 bedroom, or something at least bigger. We saw it the first day, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to give a strong offer because I knew the market, I knew what people were willing to pay. I was going to give them 50 over, and my mom's like, I don't know, you pushed me like an extra like 15 or something or whatever, 20,000 extra. She's like, no, give them a little bit more. Yeah, she give them a little bit more. So we ended up giving a little bit more. So I think I paid almost 70,000 over for this house.
That's a great story to share with your buyers. Like she even pushes me. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like buyers feel like I'm trying to spend their money, and I'm like, look, I believe in the direction of this area, and I wouldn't advise you if I didn't feel confident about it. Like there's never been a house that not wood, but never been a house that I sold to a client that I haven't sold for more money down the line. I even had a situation where I had a client win a multiple bid situation, and the next year he had some kind of financial issues or whatever. We sold it the next year for 100,000 more. So
right now the market is good. But
the market's good. It's not going to always be like that, you know what I mean? But you wanna just prep your buyers for the future and all that kind of stuff.
Knowledge of real estate.
But the house that I bought in Pompton Lakes, I know I'm not going to sell. So yeah, did I overpay that time and place? Yes, I will say that. The house appraised, but Mark did the loan, so which was
the house appraised,
which was great, whatever. But it just goes to that point. Like I didn't feel like I could overpay for a good investment, and now it's worth maybe 200,000 more because all these multifamilies around me, specifically around my neighborhood, are selling for 750 plus. You know what I mean? So I knew Pompton Lakes was going to be going up, and I believed in the direction of the area. I believed in who was coming into the area. So for me, that's why I didn't feel like I could overpay at that certain time. But it really depends on how you're going to utilize it. Like if you're a little bit younger and you could move around, whatever. Like it's just me and my wife right now. We can bounce around two families. If you have a wife and kids and family, it's a little bit harder. But if you're younger, younger people, right? You buy into that multifamily, live at one side, rent out the other. You know what I mean? The numbers didn't make sense day one, and it seemed expensive day one. But now looking back, just a short 2 years back, I mean, it was an incredible investment.
Yes, Tim.
Now I understand why they call your son the Prince of Buyers. Because the buyers you work with, you're not telling them to do something you haven't already done yourself.
That's the biggest thing, yeah. And I think
he believes in that. It worked fine for him. And just to
I think it's good that everybody understands.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he understands that and he experienced that, and now he's benefit from him. How much money are you putting towards from your own pocket towards your mortgages?
So from combined mortgage from Wanacue and Pompton Lakes, I think the total cost comes out to it's 2336. It's what, 6,000, a little under $6,000. I only have
the money that you pay to the
no, I'm going to get to that. The combined mortgage cost is about $6,000. I only contribute personally $700 every month.
How old are you?
28. You know how old I am.
Well, okay. What's usually like the mortgage payment for a buyer your age if they're gonna buy a house?
So I had a young couple, and we were freaking out about this. I had a young couple that bought a house in Wayne. They bought it for I think just under 600,000.
Yeah.
And they put 5% down.
And I called Mark. I said, Mark, are they gonna be able to afford this? Those are nice people. I don't want to put it
5% down. One's a cop, the other one works for an architect or something, so decent jobs. And their mortgage bill is $5,000. I mean, that I hear that a lot. And even my friend Mike, Mike, who just got his offer accepted in West Milford, backed out because he heard the mortgage payment. He's like, that's a little high. He's like, I need to look a little bit cheaper.
5,000.
it was like 45 or so, it was something high, something around that range, but that's like very normal for young people. So, you know, for young people or like, you know, people just starting out in their first place, I mean, consider looking into a 2-family, living one side, renting out the other, because now in my position, I only have to pay $700. I'm not gonna find that anywhere. I can't even rent that in like the worst area of New Jersey, you know what I mean?
He has a 3-bedroom,
Attic apartment.
You can't even get an attic, I mean, let alone a basement, you know, try renting a basement in Jersey City or something, you know, and you know, they're gonna charge you at least $1,000.
You have, he is in a custom built bi-level 2-family house built in '88. He has 3 bedrooms, high ceilings, beautiful deck, fenced in yard, and he can walk to Dutchers.
I can walk to Thatcher's, yeah, which is like whatever.
It's a
It's
big
not-
plus plus.
Yeah, biggest plus. Everyone says, oh, that's why you bought the house. I'm like, I didn't even like realize that.
But you know, just to go back, there's you know, you have to be willing to do it, because when we bought the first house, he moved into 1-bedroom apartment. The
And I
basement
rented
was
out the bigger
finished.
unit.
He rented the larger unit to offset his payment, you know. He rented downstairs, he stayed in a 1-bedroom upstairs. The house you bought for 360.
360 something.
360, we bought it. Then a year later, he moved into the 2-family, but you have to move. Hello, you have to sacrifice and move. And he bought that with FHA loan, because you can only have one FHA loan, the other one was conventional. He bought it with the FHA loan. It's fine.
I also, just so you know, because I know people say FHA loans are not as desirable in multiple bid situations, I also waived my appraisal and waived my home inspection, just so you know. It's not just like I utilized an FHA loan and I had all my other terms. I was competitive in that regard too. And I feel comfortable doing that with the knowledge that I've acquired through my buying and selling experiences. So
And even the broker, we waived the appraisal because we paid so much higher.
the broker called me and said, I can't do that. And I said, yes, I can. So, you know,
So
people didn't even understand how I could do these kind of terms.
the
But
broker said you cannot waive the appraisal with the FHA loan. The broker called him of the
Whitebeard and Franklin Lakes told me to waive my
of the
appraisal.
other office. But by the way, like you may ask, like he's young, but waiving the appraisal, like if you have someone relative, like we basically had the money in the bank. If they were asking for the money
Proof
to
of
waive
funds.
proof of funds, like you can gift the money, not necessarily that you have to. If you believe the house will appraise, you're not gonna have to touch that money. But as a gift, you can write like, oh, I'm gonna be like as a parent, I'm gonna gift my son $50,000 in case that there
Right,
is.
so, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Just let me know also with the FHA appraisal, although you waived it, the appraiser could have come back and asked for certain repairs, correct?
They
Yeah.
could have, which I took the responsibility of that on, yeah, what Tim is talking about is with an FHA loan, even VA loans, they're very strict on the condition of the house. So if you wanna make your offer competitive with an FHA loan to utilize that lower down payment, tell the seller or tell the seller's agent, I will take on the responsibilities of those FHA repairs. FHA is definitely not as scary as VA. VA could ask for a lot of things that are pretty unreasonable, but FHA, it's usually not terrible. But check with your lender, whoever you're using, what to expect, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what my mom was talking about, is there was a $70,000 gap from the list price to offer. So they obviously want to see, can you cover that gap? So we took the funds from a retirement account and just basically showed that and say, hey, look, this is here just in case it doesn't appraise. And we basically, you know, we didn't have to utilize the money, but it was there. You know, so that's just another method that you could use, to showcase that you have funds to waive an appraisal. But you really want to do your due diligence to make sure you don't put yourself in harm's way, because if you waive the appraisal, you are responsible to cover that difference. So it can be a little bit tricky.
But because his first house appreciated already, he was able to pull out equity, and now he opened a line of credit, and now he has money to go into the flipping business.
That's from the Wanacue house. Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask a question regarding
Sure.
equity? So, do you open line through your equity, but it's not gonna affect your interest rates of the house that you
No.
already own, right?
Correct. So the house in Wanacue that I have, my interest rate, I think, is around like high 2%, something like this. I obviously don't want to touch that. I want to leave it just where it is. The equity line of credit is a completely separate loan. So I don't know exactly how they calculate all the calculation and everything, but I owe about 290 or 280 on the house. The bank valued it at, I think, 535, 550 or so. So they loaned on the in-between, right? Is something like that? They
Yes.
loaned on the in-between. And I was able to pull out money from that. And that money that I used, I now do flips with them. And I get to, stretch that money.
But you have like a line of credit, so on a line of credit, it's like your saving account.
It's like a credit card or savings
Like a
account.
credit card, you take the money when you need it, after you're not doing flips, you put the money back, so.
It's like you're giving yourself a hard money loan.
And you're just gonna be paying interest on the amount that you're gonna be using it for.
Correct.
Right?
Like,
And
Yeah.
but you have to do it like through your bank, or you can do like to somebody,
You can do
another like.
You could get the equity line of credit through any lender that's willing to do it. Me personally, like I use Mark for a lot of things, and he himself told me to go through my local bank, who I bank with, because usually they'll give you special incentives to do it through them.
local banks for line of credits are better than like your mortgage lenders, that's
Typically.
in my opinion, that's what we experience. I think that the lenders are opening up to do those line of credits, but we do it with the local bank,
Yeah, so we
Chase or TD Bank.
kind of got off track on a lot of these slides, but it's okay. We're wrapping up on the class. I mean, I want to open it up for questions or any kind of open discussion that you guys may have from the things we talked about. Is there anything that's coming to mind? Yeah, go ahead.
How do you differentiate and balance between a steady cash flow as opposed to a long-term investment? There's obviously, like you say, there's a lot of things that you do for the long haul that you're investing in, down the road it's gonna appreciate. Then there's other things that you say, okay, but I need a cash flow from a property today. How do you?
How do I like, source that info, like?
How do you
cash flow
balance
for
it
today?
out? How is your thought process when you say, maybe you're just kind of doing this long enough that I don't have to worry about my daily cash flow. I just worry about,
The long term, yeah. I mean, look, for me, my investments, anything I'm buying right now, because of my age, I mean, everyone's different, but because of my age, I'm thinking about it like 30 years down the line. But if you're looking for immediate cash flow, I mean, you're more numbers driven. You could probably talk more about what you look and what your thought process is like.
I
for
mean, I
immediate.
always look in the areas where the market is not there yet, so you will get the cash flow there because basically prices are cheaper. But people have those ideas that you need to cash flow $1,000. Like, this is not the way you think.
Look, we sold an investment to someone who had, I think he had like what, $40,000-$50,000 that he wanted to park, right? And we sold him a condo up in Vernon. Yeah, we sold him a condo up in Vernon, and the cash flow on it, I think, is like $100. It's very, very small margins. But it's great because he's a young enough guy and he's not living there. He bought this investment and he's going to be able to hold it for the long term, stick a tenant in there, someone's going to be paying it down and it's going to be appreciating, because right after he closed, another condo sold in that complex for more money.
Yeah.
So that appreciation's already showing. So, whether you're going to cash flow $1,000 or $100, it depends on your risk tolerance.
Something that people don't understand, that everybody is looking for that immediate cash flow. Not always you're gonna get that. But keep in mind, if you're gonna lack the, let's say, investments, they probably you could find a mortgage around 6.5%, which is kind of high. At some point, you're gonna be able to get it lower if you're gonna refi, right? But let's say 6.5, and your payment right now it's, for example, $2,000. You can rent it for 21 right now. Not much cash flow, but keep in mind your mortgage is locked. Your mortgage is locked, that you're not gonna go higher. Taxes, sure, every year the taxes will go up, so slightly will go up. But rental prices, there was not a year over the past 100 years that the rental prices depreciated. Rental prices always go up, and year by year, your rents, that gap is gonna get larger and larger. Sure, if you can cash flow $1,000, that's amazing per month. But it's hard to find those deals unless you're gonna go to Phillipsburg. In Phillipsburg, Stephen would do it. Stephen would cash flow $1,000 the next month. right?
Yeah, he was gonna cash flow great. I mean, I sold an investor that cash flowed from day one, I think $1,000 plus on a two-family.
Yeah, but you have to
With
go to
putting
those
down only
areas
3.5%.
that are not in here, but Bergen County, you're gonna be upside down.
I want to say also something to the risk tolerance point. I sold a client a condo in Basking Ridge, and the numbers did not make sense when they closed on it. The rent actually was lower than the mortgage amount, but because I sold the belief on the appreciation of that area to that client, they bought it anyways. And a couple months, this was for Anna and Matt. They bought it with the tenant. They got themselves a great price. The taxes are super cheap in that Basking Ridge area, and the HOA fees were super low. So they got an opportunity to park a good amount of money. And they had to bite the bullet for a couple months, but they were able to raise that rent where it made sense now.
Exactly.
And now they just reached out to me recently. They're going to put a brand new tenant in there, and it's going to cash flow amazingly, very handsomely now, probably like $500 to $700 more now. So and in our area, it's very unique. Like they always talk about cash flow and stuff like that on social media and the internet. That's more so like, when you're looking at like the Midwest, where you could buy a property for like $100,000. Like we can't do that in our area. So you have to bite the bullet and you have to focus more on the appreciation. Where is it going to be going down the line? You know what I mean? Like obviously in an area like Basking Ridge, they bought this condo, I think for like $260, $270. I'm like, that's dirt cheap over there. I'm like, jump on that. I said, buy it with the tenant, bite the bullet, because if it was vacant, would have had a much higher offer from an owner occupant. So those are the opportunities you really want to look for.
That's what Artur, that's how I told him, and that's what he's looking for right now. When he has a buyer, when he's looking for his own investments, look at the prices in the area. Look at the prices surrounding areas, the towns around you. If that number makes sense and it's lower than, let's say, the average selling price in that town, or the towns, let's say, like I was telling about Netcong and Ragsboro. Ragsboro was booming. Nobody knew that Netcong existed. At some point, people are gonna wake up. Oh, I can buy a Netcong. It's still cheaper there. And right now, Netcong, well, we bought the house for $420. Right now, it's worth close to $7 in 3 years.
Yeah.
And we put $30,000.
You had a question. I was going to get to or whatever.
People in here, first time they want to purchase an investment property, how much reserve capital should they have? To, let's just say, a tenant decides, hey, I'm not paying the rent.
The bank is looking for 6 months, right?
6 months. Okay.
The bank is looking for
That's a
6.
safety net that people should understand.
Yeah. I mean, dealing with tenants can be unique. Stephen had a unique situation where he bought a Hawthorne. I'll talk about his experience a little bit just to, quickly give you an idea. He bought a 2-family, and Stephen's on our team, and he looks to us for a lot of advice, and we guide him on this stuff.
And how old is Stephen?
Stephen bought this property at 24 years old.
No, Stephen
23?
now is 24.
Now he's 24.
Stephen bought it last year at the beginning of the year.
So Stephen bought this
Stephen was
2-family
22
in Hawthorne. There's
when he bought it.
tenants on the first floor, tenants on the upstairs. And to Tim's point, like how much reserve should you have and stuff. This is like absolute worst case scenario I've ever seen in my life. It's the absolute worst case scenario. First floor tenants were great. He wanted to keep them. They were paying under market rent. He got them up once he closed on the house. So it helped out with the mortgage payment. Upstairs, he bought this 2-family without even looking at the upstairs, okay?
We haven't seen the unit.
He has never seen the unit, but because we've seen so many properties, we kind of had an understanding of how that unit would probably look. So we pushed him to it because he got such an incredible deal. And believe it or not, there were multiple offers on it. I think it was listed for like low 5s in Hawthorne.
No, it was listed under 5.
$499 or something like that. I think he ended up closing for it for like $530, $535. Said he would buy it with the tenant, so he paid a little over or whatever, waived everything, whatever he had to do just to get it. But we knew it was such a great buy because who was buying a house that you can't even see? You know what I mean?
Nice house.
Phenomenal house. I mean, he did very well on it now, but he closed on it, and I don't know, the upstairs tenants were such a nightmare to deal with. He had to go through the evictions. He lost his first round of eviction, the court case, which was devastating, even though he had all the evidence to win.
Like I was there just to watch it for my knowledge and experience. We won, and then the tenant started crying. She went up to the judge, like laid her on the
no like I'm trying to think of the word, like no guilt, no like, just
No guilt.
morals.
Like a shock.
Threw herself on the judge, just like last hurrah type of attempt, just crying.
Judge said, excuse me, he walked out. He needs to consult something, he came back and he changed the room.
So it happens, right? So, evictions are always, they're tough. You really wanna, have an attorney in your corner that, you could talk to about evictions and how things could potentially play out, so that's really important to know too. But he ended up losing the first time around, so it took another couple months to settle this and finally get the tenant out. But I think, how long was he in there? I mean, he had to be in there for almost a year, I think.
No, in December, he was out by December.
But how many months was he in there for? The tenant after closing?
We closed in March.
Yeah, so almost a full year he was in
So
there.
you need some money like to play, but at the end, people are like, oh my God, I'm not buying houses for the tenants, like. You're gonna get them out. This was the worst.
And he got them out eventually, they did leave. It wasn't the most, blissful process, but at the end of the day, my point is, he bought it for $535. What's it worth now? Probably close to $7.
Close to 7.
700,000. You know what I mean? Because Hawthorne is blowing up right now.
68, nice house, nice, and the taxes are.
Beautiful property. I mean, he did so well. So, with those multifamilies, I mean, if you want to buy that like vacant new construction duplex, you're probably gonna have to pay over $1 million for it in certain areas, like just closed in Lodi with the record-breaking sale. Or you can look at those problem properties and think, how can I make this work? So I think that's the way you want to go. Look for problem properties. Yeah.
So I just want to be respectful of you guys' time. Thank you so much. You guys have shared so much great information. I'm not surprised we didn't go through the slides.
Yeah, we kinda.
We think this is more life experiences that people can benefit more from it, I believe, yeah.
So what's one takeaway, obviously just people hearing it versus them taking action, it's two different things. What's one thing that you would say of everyone being at different levels in the room? What's one thing that you think could help them as far as taking action?
Well, something I really liked on the slides I wish we got to was just who you surround yourself with. Like if you want to just pull it up really quick, I like this one. This is the one thing I think everyone should take away. Because this is the main thing. Like, cause I asked that question, how many times were people talking about wealth growing up? It's the wealth determiner slide. This I think is the most important thing, which is so true. Who you surround yourself with will determine your net worth. Your net worth is your net worth, right? Like those sayings. Surround yourself with people who are always talking about this stuff, about building wealth, real estate, and just getting into that and just being more open-minded. This, I think, is such a big takeaway. If you surround yourself with people that are just like anti-investment, this and whatever, you're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be very difficult. So I think for me, why I blossomed so well is because of being around my mom and being around, this great office and just, living through these experiences. That's what really helped me. So showing up to the classes, showing up, every day and just putting the work in, doing the due diligence to learn what is a good investment, what's a bad investment is going to really help, build that up. So.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Any final questions before we wrap up then? I hope you guys learned something today.
Can we get maybe one or two takeaways from you guys? What did you guys learn from hearing them speak?
Yes, did you guys learn something?
The detail in which you should do your research about an area of the. Follow the mayor on Facebook.
Yeah, mayor, local Facebook groups. I mean, just you have to. It's more so just than the numbers in investing. Know what kind of people are there. That's super important. Follow the culture. Follow the people.
Potentials to grow.
Yeah.
No, you had one?
Oh no, I was gonna say, when you guys started the presentation, you said mindset, so the important thing is like, just have the mindset to invest.
That's why I think it's so important about this, coming into the office every day. I mean, there's so many great people here. I mean, this is the best office you could ever be a part of. And for the sheer fact that you have so many big producers and so many agent friendly investors here, like ourselves, like so many others here. That is invaluable. Surround yourselves with these like-minded people. Very important.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.